Dr. Bell is coming over, and we're going to have some of our colleagues here. But as I said at our last first of all, good to see you. Welcome. Beautiful spring day today. This is our meeting. This is not my meeting. This is not a meeting I chair by myself, or it's an open consultation meeting on the matters that both of us bring to the table. I consider myself the facilitator of the meeting, not the chair of the meeting. Okay. So is it okay with you guys if I just march through this? Not march, we have to probably be here until 8 o'clock to get all of this done, but and then we'll just decide together about how many of these things we can get to. Okay, so, all right. Monday. Okay, again, this is a CAPM meeting, which is a consultation meeting. There are no action items on the agenda. There never are action items. It's just an opportunity actually in the policy, and I don't have it memorized, but it's a way for the Board of Trustees and its designees, okay, to consult on matters of mutual agreement, mostly the so-called 10+1 items, with the leadership of the academic center. And that's the purpose of this meeting. So I don't think there are any matters on here that we are expecting to come to mutual agreement on today. So, but since it's we decided that together that it's an open meeting. Is there any colleagues or members of the public who would like to make a comment on any matter whatsoever?
Yes.
Of course.
I will, again, I'll read the, excerpts from these documents and so forth, but I'd like to have the discussion actually that we talked about last week.
Right.
We never seem to have. But I would like to continue this discussion.
I'm sorry, did you have that meeting? Are you having that remember, you came to College Council and you...
Right, you were going to invite us to come and speak.
Right.
So
okay.
I checked my email.
Okay.
But again, I'm here to ask for your support for the Academic Senate's resolution for the Pasadena City College Architecture Department to remain as is and to remain in its current location. I'm making this request on behalf of the department whose academic future is very much at stake. We are an acclaimed architecture transfer program and have been for over 20 years. Today, I'm asking for your support that we remain located in the School of Visual, Media, and Performing Arts, and that our physical classroom space be retained. On April the 11th in the afternoon, I was informed by Vice President Bell of his intended decision to move the architecture department from the School of Visual, Media, and Performing Arts to the CTE Career Technical Education Division. He indicated that the rooms currently utilized by the architecture department would be given to the second-year experience program, a grant-funded program. My cordial conversation with Dr. Bell raised many important factors that appeared not to have been fully considered in this decision. He was unable to state the benefits of moving my transfer students to the CTE division. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the plan was the loss of a physical space with no viable solutions or contingent plans that would accommodate them in the scheduling of a robust schedule of studio, drafting, and computer curriculum. It is critically important to note that the Pasadena City College Architecture Department was moved into the Visual Media Performing Arts Division 2 years ago in fall of 2012, after a year-long board-approved process that involved participatory committees on campus. I respectfully request your support for the Faculty Senate resolution of the Pasadena City College Architecture Department. We request that the Board of Trustees, for the Board of Trustees to place this item on its agenda at the next meeting in order to discuss the negative impact that such a move would have on our architecture program. Finally, this request is firmly supported by the statements of principles outlined by Scott Lay from the CCLC and Beth Smith, President of the Statewide Academic Senate, regarding academic and professional matters, as made clear in a technical pre-accreditation visit on April 14, 2014. Any changes that impact either faculty or students or curriculum must be implemented by mutual agreement. There has been no such mutual agreement. In fact, there has been no such review as well. Numbers of, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a number of letters that have been coming in from concerned architectural educators at our transfer universities. I don't know how many people are actually aware of the fact that every year the AIA has a competition amongst all of the different universities in California, the different architecture schools. And these competitions include the UCs, the graduate schools from UCs, the graduate and undergraduate schools from the Cal States, as well as USC, Woodbury University, SciArc, the California College of Arts and Crafts in San Francisco. Every university. This year, like other years, my students took half of the prizes at this event. This is no small matter. This is a big matter. We are a program that is extremely well respected in the community. And I think to abandon these things is to perhaps to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Okay, I'm going to read from a letter that Norman Millar wrote in support of the program. I write this letter to urge you not to make the decision to move the PCC Architecture Department from the Visual and Performing Arts Division into the Career and Technicals Division. Furthermore, I strongly urge your administration to recognize the important relationship between maintaining the current dedicated physical space to the health and functionality of the architecture program. It is important to note that the PCC architecture program has the highest reputation amongst community colleges in Southern California. The PCC architecture program is one of a handful of community colleges in California with strong liberal arts base that is not a vocational program and should remain that way. PCC architecture students have a strong record of transferring into the third year of our 5-year Bachelor's of Architecture programs at Woodbury University. It is also not uncommon for them to go on to be the strongest students in their class. In fact, last year, 2 out of 3 of the most highly acclaimed students at the university were PCC graduate students from our program. The same was true also for SciArc, where our students took best thesis, and as well as other honorable mentions at their award ceremonies as well. Keeping the architecture transfer curriculum will allow PCC architecture students to enjoy being recruited by professional NAB, National Architectural Accrediting Board, accredited architecture programs like Woodbury, SciArc, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, USC, the CCA in Berkeley, whose degrees would enable them to become licensed architects. These schools depend on the fact that the PCC Architecture Department conforms in alignment with NAB curricular and physical space standards that these programs must comply to maintain in their accreditation. It should be noted that there is currently a national effort by the CCCAP, Coalition of Community College Architecture Programs, to bring community college architecture programs into the NAB accreditation process. So now there's even a national effort to try to bring us in because we become part of, grandfathered into somebody else's degree. The Pasadena program is poised to be on the vanguard of this policy. As current president of the Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture, the ACSA, whose membership includes accredited professional graduate and undergraduate architecture programs in the U.S. and Canada, as well as some community college programs such as PCCs, I'm working hard to support the transformation of existing community college vocational programs into transfer programs like yours at PCC. In my efforts as the education liaison on the executive committee of the California Architecture Foundation, this is an arm of the AIA, the statewide AIA, American Institute of Architects. We often use the PCC curriculum and program as a success as how to model and influence lesser performing community college architecture programs around the state. I'm going to skip some of the letter and just get to the final paragraph, which is, please do not make the mistake of changing this program for the worse. You should be considering increasing your support for this vital architecture department with dedicated space and resources. I only know of one other community college program in the country of this high caliber, and that is Miami-Dade College. At Miami-Dade, they recognize the importance of what they have and have no intention to change it. I hope that my letter and those of others help you and your fellow administrators to recognize the importance of what you have as well. So respectfully, Norman Millar, who is the professor and dean of the School of Architecture at Woodbury University and the president of the ACSA. So I just wanted to kind of read that as just a sort of an introduction, I guess, to the discussion and so forth, as I know that we're on the agenda as well. So
that's great, thank you. Yeah, and I do want to apologize to my colleagues because I actually shouldn't have let you speak. Because I said public comment on non-agenda items, but architecture is on there, and you said your piece. And what's the will of the group? Do you want to just, since it's on the agenda, you want to just kick this around now and talk about it? Dr. Bell, I think you're aware of it. Do you want to, kind of...
Should I join the table? Or should I sit over here?
Fill us in, and and again, we're not, to my knowledge, we're not coming to decision or action or mutual agreement on anything in front of us today. But
I will gladly update everyone, Dr. Rocha. I have been in receipt of similar letters and email from concerned students, both current and alums of the architecture program. We have, the Academic Affairs Office, have considered the possibility of moving the architectural program from its current placement in BAMS to career technical education. I never addressed Coleman previously, and he shared with me concerns prior to the number of emails I received. I told him at that time that I appreciate the input and share the things that he had brought to my attention that hadn't been considered previously. That's been reinforced by the letters that we received. So, while we haven't come to closure on this, I will tell you now that we're looking at making the decision to leave the program where it is with respect to alignment to BAMS. It will be necessary to move the program from its current location on the first floor of the B building to another location, but that would be housed in the B building as well. So it would be a smaller footprint, but it should be sufficient place for the program to continue. And reporting responsibility at the end of the program will be aligned directly with BAMS, i.e. Joe Goodman is the direct administrative contact.
Dan, sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad that they're going to stay on the vans, which they should. But I'm going to have to throw in an argument for them staying in their present location. I've seen some projects the students have done. It fills up an entire room. And as Coleman has pointed out, this is a very important part of PCC. They account for 10% of our transfers to four-year institutions. They're award-winning, won awards, and I don't think we want to undermine one of our success stories here.
Doesn't make sense.
So, yeah, I would argue in favor of keeping them in their present location.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will tell you that Steve, right with the academic student affairs, it wasn't a quick knee-jerk unilateral kind of decision. The rationale for moving the architecture program out of the current location, 102, 102, I don't know the exact numbers, but the suite that it currently populates on the first floor of the B building is to allow the college to make expansion in our pathway program, our first-year pathway program. We're at the point now where it needs to be institutionalized. In other words, we need to take it off of funding on soft dollars and on the funding on institutional dollars. And also, we're expanding the first-year program to actually develop a footprint for a second-year program, and ultimately down the road, the development discussion of the third-year program. And so to grow that program, and that program has, for the past 2 years in operation, has been at the cornerstone of promoting student success. One, to move through the process of getting here at PCC, really consistent with the records we've got from the Chancellor's office, to move through to completion on ideally a 2-year time frame or a 3-year time frame. So we're expanding the first-year pathways into the second-year pathway program, and to facilitate that growth in the program to, I believe, we're going to
On a 2,400, we're roughly at 1,000, 1,100 right now. Next year, the program will grow to 2,400. And we just need an increased amount of physical space to accommodate that level of support. And it only kind of makes sense because the TLC is the next operation over. It's recently been updated and remodeled. There's just a large number of mentors and all kinds of additional activities that will need to take place to support what essentially is a doubling of that program as of fall 2014 semester. So it'll be roughly 2,400 students served out of that center.
And that's the only space in Vans where that could accommodate the pathway?
Well, the space, I'm not too involved or too engaged in the conversation about the size of space. I know Ruben has been actively involved. I think V206 is what we're talking about now, Coleman, if I remember correctly.
It
and
is.
I think you and he have had some conversations about V206, and you think
Yes.
it might be able to work for you from
Well,
what you're told?
the thing that I expressed to Dr. Bell was the willingness to try to see if we could figure out some sort of configuration and so forth. The difficulty is being able to maintain the when you have the studio component, the computer component, and the drafting component, students are operating in all of these things back and forth between these rooms. And the point is, for us, when we start to split the space up,
Right.
then we lose that, we'll call it the synergistic component, but you lose the ability.
As I recall, V206, next door is V208, obviously, and that's kind of a rehearsal space right now for a music program. So there's some possibilities, some discussion about that. And then I think to the east of 206, there's actually another classroom that actually connects.
Bob, if we could get about 4,000 square feet, then, we would not object to doing that.
Without committing to anything, because it's not my job to do that, I would say that we would certainly be very
You know what
willing.
my grandmother would say.
Right, exactly. I would say we would be very willing to talk with you about that. We do have the so-called fusion numbers to deal with, which is the amount of square footage that is dedicated to certain programs, and whether or not the Chancellor's office believes that that's an appropriate level of accommodation or not. We'll be willing to do that. See, Cynthia wants to say something?
Yeah, Coleman, I just am curious, since I look at the global transfer numbers, and And Dan, you mentioned that the architecture program accounts for 10%.
Yes.
So are you indicating that we have 150 students who transfer to various institutions
No, I
per
understood
year?
that the number of transfers per year from the college was 300 and some.
No, it's way more than that. It's around 1,500.
Okay.
So how many students would you say you transfer per year?
From graduates who completers of the program would be over 20, but then there are numbers of students who are transferring in between that figure. We serve two populations. We serve an undergraduate transfer population, and we serve a graduate school population. People can get a degree in architecture if they have a bachelor's in another subject, and they can go and take a year with us, and then go to a graduate school and actually enroll in a fast-track master's program. So we have, well, let me finish. So we have probably, I don't know, every semester, maybe about a dozen, every year about a dozen of those folks, would you guys say? What do you think? And then we've got about, then we've got a number of people who squeak out, in the in-between, and then transfer at that point. So, we've got, I can go back and look at some of the studies and so forth and give you some numbers.
I would just say, to kind of go back and back this up, I know that Ruben, myself, I sense Dr. Bell as well, we'd be happy to talk more about what could happen in 206 and 208, and maybe next door, within reason, if you will. But the space for the expansion of the TLC is really quite essential right now when we look at the larger completion goals, the achievement gap goals, all these other things that we've got to try to accommodate here.
Well, can I just as an architect speak to this fact? As we're looking at the master plan and we're looking at rational and smart placement of programs on the campus, I think that I have nothing against I think that the Pathways programs are great, but it seems to me that they would be much better located on the quad and in the art building and having proximity to Cynthia's area with student support. And, let me just finish. Let me just finish. And so forth. But that would be a far more logical placement rather than spending more money in the V building, because the V building is part of what will ultimately be the arts complex. So it seems to me sort of ludicrous to be spending money and more money after knowing that you're going to even spend more money to move a program out to get that kind of thing. It just seems that we have an opportunity now to do it right.
Let me get, again, this is great. At the CAPM meeting, it's been traditionally an opportunity for the board and the Senate leadership to talk. But just as facilitator, Dan was nice as president.
I got a counter proposal here. Wherever you're going to move architecture, why can't Pathways move in there? That way, the architecture
Just to let you know, I believe that the PLC right now is in a footprint of about 2,500 square feet or more, the current footprint. What we're talking about upstairs would be difficult. Coleman's point is well taken. The problem is we have a pretty huge investment in the current TLC in terms of all the upgrades and things that were done to it last summer. I'm not sure where in the R building, the first floor of the R building, we would carve all that out, and we'd end up spending a huge sum right now. What happens down the road as far as the master plan and other things are concerned, and what might happen in the art building, what have you, is a 5 to 10 year plus scenario. We're just talking about a way to facilitate things right now.
Let me get President Cairo, and then I have a suggestion for how we can all wear the same jersey on this, instead of pit one program against another.
Thank you.
Well, actually, that's how I was going to begin, because we do have an award-winning program, architecture, and then, so we are pitting two programs against another. So we want to help one program at the expense of another. So my question is, by moving the architecture program from where they are now to where they may be, what's the benefit to them? How are they going to benefit?
Well, if you look at it from the standpoint, if the architecture program stays static in the current footprint that it currently needs, there's no way it's going to benefit. I mean, I can't see how the cost is going to benefit the different locations. And it is the decision that has to be made, President Carroll, against competing needs to valuable programs. So I don't want anyone to think that it's a statement that there'd be discrimination because we have to see a value in architecture program. Going forward, in the immediate sense, and that is why we go through the sense of facilities master plan, the rationale is how do we expand the program that is in fact growing at the pace that the pathway program is going. To use Professor Griffith's term, to maintain some synergy with the current location of the first year program as we expand to the second year, but still be able to place the architecture program, physically place it in a location which will be obviously smaller than where it was, but will have a minimum impact on it. So that was the rationale behind it. I don't think there's any way to make this out to be a quality decision where both sides do exactly what they want because they are competing.
Maybe, Paul is also,
I'm sorry.
so we can get 12 things on here. But maybe I can suggest this. I heard, you know, just for our record, that this is what I'm hearing, that Dr. Bell had revisited the decision, the structural decision, and has decided to leave it in, if I heard you correctly, in BMS for now. So, okay, so I heard Dr. Bell listening to that. No one has put a recommendation on my desk, nor would I accept one to change the architecture program of this current curriculum, nor could I, since that clearly is a 10+1 issue. So, you know, no one's changing the architecture program. The students are not getting their curriculum changed. The transfer program, okay. The issue that I hear is that actually we could make some progress on in terms of engineering a process, better process. I think we all probably can agree this is by, you know, because we, you know, is the facilities issue. And let me just put the issue this way too. The very difficult decision about where to locate architecture, where to locate pathways, for example, where to locate anything, is going to get more and more and more difficult, not less difficult, because we're going to have to take more and more space offline as we move through with the master planning and so on. So one of the things I would suggest is we've heard a lot of good things about the facilities issue. Could be this, could be that. The thing that I would, along the lines that President Cairo said, I would ask us to, you know, stop short of, you know, of the competing interests, you know, of students and programs here. Because we don't have a decision between one good thing and one bad thing. We have a decision between two good things. Okay? And that's what makes it difficult. So what I suggest is that, you know, is that we have some kind, we do the best we can, meet on this, make the best decision we can. But I would suggest that we have some kind of what I would call space allocation committee, okay? Because it's harder than it looks. I mean, it's easy for anyone to say, well, I want to be here rather than there. But I know the administrators on the front line often have this difficult decision, and maybe we're not sharing the problems. So let's, you're going to meet on this, and you're going to review this together with the appropriate parties, and then perhaps we don't have to agree on it today, but perhaps we can continue to talk with the Senate leadership about some kind of formal space allocation group. And that may slow things up, okay? But so be it, right? Because, you know, we also want you to know that your colleagues, faculty members, come to us every month and say, I got to be out here and I got to be there now, okay? So maybe together we could say, okay, you know what? There's a process for that. It's going to go to the Space Allocation Committee. It's in the Senate, and you know, with members, and go from there. Okay, I think I saw Melissa's comment, and because we have like 19 things on the agenda here, we want to try and move the agenda. Melissa and Coleman again. Okay, real quick. Okay, go. Okay, so that we're not.
I'd like to know you know, how do you know that there will be 1,000 more students in pathways?
Because they're enrolling. Okay, they're enrolling now.
And also, what special needs exactly do those students need in terms of space?
Those are great questions, and those are the questions that I've asked the group to.
Answered very, very, very.
And, you
And
know,
will there should be proposals where the architecture
there should
department
be,
needs
absolutely.
XXX,
And those,
pathways needs XYZ.
and those things take time. And if, for example, you
Right.
wanted a language lab, okay,
Okay.
and it was going to vacate somebody else's space, and that would be a good thing. Because a language lab is a good thing, but we would have to make a space adjustment.
Does that
Okay.
mean that this has been stopped for now and this is not going to be happening until that?
I didn't say that, so I'll leave it to
Because-
Dr. Bell.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I'm wondering, because this
okay,
is
well,
where,
that's not how, you know, Dr. Bell said he was going to meet with the parties and move through this, okay? I hear you. Coleman?
I just
comment?
wanted to say that there are no other programs being discussed in the same way that architecture is. I mean, why is our space, which is existing space, which by the way was given to us not because it was adequate space, it was given to us by Rick Van Pelt, who was no giver of anything that, well, please, let me finish. We were placed in that location until such time that the space could be, adequate space could be given to us under Measure P in that building. And I don't understand why we are the ones that are on the spectacle here for this, and why we're not looking at maybe another program someplace else. It just doesn't seem.
Well, we could be.
Well, but then where does all this silly business stop? I mean, at a certain point, decisions.
Please, look, we're arguing an outcome here, and what we're trying to do is to establish a process.
Okay.
Okay? To establish a process through joint consultation, we can arrive at mutual agreement on an outcome. We hear your argument, okay? We hear it. I think Dr. Bell has heard it and heard it and rolled back part of what you were talking about.
Okay.
So I think that's an indication that the administration is listening. But there is a principle involved, and that is the process, program review, planning, and so on and so forth, so that we can all right, know that since space, like money, is limited, we can make the best decisions we can with a process that we agree on. So when the outcome comes, all right, we can say, okay, that went through the process. That's what I see as the most important thing here. So what we're saying is that we're going to send it back through the process, all right? But I also say to my colleagues, we do that, okay, that the decisions that many programs come to the administration with, all right, and they come to us, almost every week, and maybe we're responsible for this as well, for, okay, please act. Well, if we set up a joint consultation committee on this, then all the things that we're talking about, is it this better, is that better, then that group can look at it and make a recommendation. As of yet, I have no recommendation on my desk.
But there's no process. I mean, that's what you're asking us to agree to.
Well, you said the process some previous administrator decided.
Yeah, but see, that's precedent. though.
Okay,
That's precedent.
we're not gonna make it.
Like law, that is precedent.
I think, further comment, I think I skipped over a couple of people.
I think we're pretty close to a solution. I think we're seeing things closely, and so what I'm thinking we should do is, if at all possible, create some sort of memo of understanding stating that nothing will be moved until we have this space allocation committee created, in which we have shared governance, and then let this committee decide, ultimately give its recommendation to you. The only difference that I'm saying is that nothing be done until this committee makes a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, let me just,
May I make this recommendation, that instead, for now, on this particular topic, Dr. Bell convene a working group, whoever is defined as being, to look into this issue, because if in fact we are going to prepare for these 2,400 students, we need to begin the work relatively soon. Whether it is in the space of the architecture department in having or another space on campus. Because these students are enrolling now, they are coming to this campus, we have to be able to support them by virtue of the design of the Pathways program.
The only problem with that is that if the committee decides that architecture won't move, and they had moved, they want to spend money putting them back to where they were.
No, I'm saying that nothing would happen on this project until this working group convenes.
Gotcha.
But to figure out what the long-term group's going to be, how, so that we need to solve this one relatively quickly.
Right.
So just convene a group to deal with this one, and then move on to your recommendation after that for future things. Because we have an urgent need.
We're happy to accept the, that. Okay. Man, I'm sorry, I skipped over you. Man, did you want to defer to your colleague? Yeah, I think he was.
Sure.
He was.
We just emptied the art building of thousands of students, and tons of classroom space was moved to the new arts building. The art building is just wide open empty with tumbleweeds rolling through it. I don't see why we can't use that for this new space.
That's a
I
great
know
point.
I'm exaggerating, but
And I think that's the thing.
it's wide open, it's there. And why would we disrupt an existing program to give more breathing room to a grants program that's not even established?
What I think he's talked sense.
That's through my own little,
I think President Cairo has suggested a process that will get us there. What I would ask us to do in that group is that, again, the committee doesn't decide, it recommends, okay? And the recommendation needs to be in that group based on evidence and based on planning and programming and so on and so forth. You're not going to come out with a decision that is, unanimous, and you're not going to come out with a decision. We don't want to have a decision, well, the faculty think this and the administration thinks this. What you just said is a point that needs to be factored into that discussion. But I am also hearing that there are some imperatives involved, so this group needs to convene ASAP. Now, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm concerned with the manner in which the college moves forward with things without having them planned. So we are expanding pathways to 2,400 students, but clearly we're not ready to accommodate 2,400 students. We're moving forward with, realignment with a dean structure or a chair structure, and that hasn't been negotiated, and it falls coming right around the corner. So I wonder how wise it is to establish a process for space allocation, but then to acknowledge that you have some needs, who knows what they are, because we've built a program that we're not ready for. And then those needs will actually sidestep that process. So I'm concerned just about two things. One is the manner in which we're moving forward with expansion of programs that we're not ready to serve. And two, whether that space allocation committee and the process they develop will have any teeth when it comes to this issue and others on campus.
Well, I think my personal opinion is that those concerns are absolutely valid. The pressure that we all face together, but obviously the administration responds to, is that there's always pressure. If we're going to meet on this and have, resources so that, people provide the data, people, and we move the program review. One of the questions I have was program review, okay? What is the link? The college has been cited for the link from planning to budgeting, okay? And so I would like to see where is the plan? Now, obviously, this one we're going to try and put a fence around so that we adjudicate it as quickly as possible. But I agree with you 100%. There's going to be a tension between having a proper consultation process in which we arrive at consultation and speed. And there's always going to be a tension between the two because there's always going to be some urgency. Okay, so I think we got that, and cool, so we're going to convene and take a look at it, and I would like to see, without, preordaining the result, I would like to see the recommendation. Okay, so, so you're going to convene. All right, so we did all right with that one. Okay, so let's go, if it's okay, back up to the top. And Dr. Bell, did you want to, this was the first item was the one item that the admin submitted. So did you want to speak to the program discontinuance?
Yes, there are 5 programs which are, have been offered through our CDC program that haven't been, there haven't been courses in the program which haven't been offered for, and Dr. Ariana maybe will help me this for a number of years.
Depending on the certificate for many, many years, and can I just provide a point of clarification? The electronic assembly program, which we have been stating as a certificate, was never approved by the chancellor's office, and so I was just hoping to get clearance to go ahead and remove it from our catalog because it was never approved as such a certificate and hasn't been offered in many years. So I just didn't want to remove it from the next catalog cycle without at least alerting folks that we need to delete it. But the majority of the other certificates, we have not offered courses in many, many years. We offer one here, one there. So they're not viable certificate programs anymore.
So if I understand, Dr. Bell, we, the administration, are asking the Senate to follow that together we would follow the policy to join this, to form this joint task force that would look at this issue.
Correct.
Okay. What do you think, President
I think it should just go to CNI.
This is my head on program review.
Right.
Discontinue the
Yeah,
program.
that's CNI issue. Right. So the request should go through CNI, and then CNI is the one that handles that. So we don't need to create any task force.
I see quizzical looks out there.
People may want to review the procedures of
Okay.
policy 32 chat on program discontinuance that has a really clearly laid out steps that you follow.
All right, so we'll say we'll not commit until we read it.
Well, President Carr, could we extend that once the academic senate has a chance to review, perhaps your office and my office can discuss how we go forward with the task force? That would be okay.
Yeah, I think that would be okay, because we can bring this up at we have a meeting this coming Monday. By then we can, by then we have an answer.
Can I just make a quick point that the policy does require that faculty teaching in the area be part of this task force. Since these aren't being offered, there's no faculty to bring into the task force, so that's going to be a major challenge for these 4 certificates in terms of the consultation process, because they're not being offered, so there's no faculty.
If anything, we'll make the decision easier.
That's
We're sounding cold.
What do you think? I've been teaching for 20 years. What are you talking about?
So we're agreeing to, to follow the policy. That's what we're agreeing to do. Follow the policy, and Dr. Bell and President Parrott will activate that. Okay, maybe, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in order to save time, so the committee got together and we were discussing the many different topics, and we felt that we can combine classroom assignments, block scheduling, NCNs, and realignment, because in essence, when we were discussing and try to figure an outcome, that the outcomes for all 4 are the same. And so how we're viewing it is that these items occurred without proper shared governance, without mutual agreement, and such they should not have occurred. So what we're here to do is to ask the administration that these 4 items go back to the way that things work, and then if the administration would like to implement them, that then we go through the shared governance process, and then let the process dictate whether or not that will occur and how it will be implemented. So what we're asking is to put a stop and go back to the way things were before they were implemented, and then create and then go through the process and let the process dictate the final outcome.
Okay.
Rather than going through every single one. And
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I agree that, a lot of this is under, well, one chunk of it is under what you might call class scheduling. It's, the class scheduling, certainly the classroom assignments, block schedule and so on.
And then within realignment, there's actually two different factors here. Within the realignment, we can look at the issue of the actual realignment of the college, and the other issue regards to the chairs, the creation of chairs. And again, given the fact that this is something that needs to be discussed with the union, agreed through the union, it's difficult. It's hard to believe that between now and the fall, there'll be a contract. And it's solely supposed that August, because somewhere where there is a contract. So that doesn't give much time to implement the chairs because no one is looking at it anymore.
Sooner than that. Well, how about, could we do this and just take it in two steps? Could we talk about the general scheduling issues? You know, the class scheduling issues, the so-called block scheduling, and all the scheduling issues, and talk about that first, and then we could talk about what to do with,
Yeah, if you want to divide it up that way, that's fine.
Because I had asked Ophelia here. So, first of all, just a point of information. In fact, maybe Ophelia, if you would mind joining us. Without making any proposals, what is it, just point of information, what is it that we are trying to accomplish? And what is it that we are, that we want and should consult on? So.
Well, I was asked to look at our scheduling template. And this all surfaced from the board goal adopted for 13-14 that looked at under student success, class schedule, and enrollment management with the focus on the student-centered schedule. And so when I started to look at our scheduling processes, realizing that our classes started like every 5 minutes, meaning it was very difficult for students to put together even a full-time schedule for them to complete and move on. So, in fact, we have been looking at our own template and have tweaked it with the deans since I've been here this past year, meaning changing some start times, changing that sort of thing. So when Paul Jarrell and I as co-chairs convened the ad hoc scheduling committee that was appointed by the previous president, Dustin, we basically, at least in terms of how we were discussing the template, looked at standardizing times so students could have consistent start and end time. So that was the whole premise in terms of this ad hoc scheduling committee. We really didn't specifically look at what's traditionally referred to as block scheduling, which really is a high school model in terms of blocking courses or extending minutes, etc. We never changed anything to the curriculum in terms of expanding time and shortening time. It was how we were going to be scheduling 3.4-hour, 5-hour courses, etc., to ensure that students could achieve a workable schedule of classes. So we met last spring with the committee that was appointed by the Academic Senate. And really we're concentrating more on start times and end times and passing time. And so I was asked to bring forward to the committee different templates from other colleges that had some consistent starting end time. So that's what we were basically looking at in terms of some recommendations to the scheduling office in terms of having more consistency in our schedule. But we have already had those discussions even before the ad hoc committee of the meetings as we tweaked our scheduling templates so that it wasn't a new process. And so we did put together some scheduling templates. And I noticed that there was some discussion about holding off on the scheduling implementation, but we had already implemented it for summer and the fall schedule has incorporated the standardized start times. So I'm a little nervous about saying, put it on hold, because we would have to totally revamp the fall schedule.
Right, so, Dan?
Yes, Ophelia, thank you very much. Our objection is that this never went through the academic senate. And this does affect academic and professional matters, and so we never came to a mutual agreement on this, and it sort of
So the
speaks for
faculty that participated never reported back out to academics.
So we have the minutes, they never reported that.
And because we did not come to a mutual agreement, and Laura experienced a lot of problems that faculty are coming up with, saying this is making it very, very difficult for me to get to my classes, to teach my classes. And so we're saying, could you please stop it and let us try to work out these problems and before making a change to the block schedule.
And can I just add that we have heard from students, and this is very student-friendly, student-centered. So again, if we're looking at serving our students with the best possible schedule, the feedback we receive is that they're pleased with at least some preliminary information on start and end times. And we have, again, heard the feedback, and I've been working with the scheduling office, and we have tweaked the scheduling templates to accommodate some of those unique situations that faculty have brought forward. In fact, you sent me this list of questions, issues, and David Caldwell has followed up with faculty and actually updated the scheduling template to accommodate for some unique scheduling issues.
Well, could I recommend that you bring that back? I mean, we do have a Senate meeting on Monday, and you recall that when you did come some time ago, and you talked about the implementation of block scheduling, I think it was just a brief meeting, and a lot of faculty did raise some really important issues. And it would be very helpful if you could come back and to address them again and to answer their questions. I think that would be a really good place to begin. We meet Monday. This is our last meeting. We might have two in the summer, right? But it'll be the last one where we can be sure that people will be attending. So if you'd like to be on the agenda, I think that'd be very helpful if you could come back and answer some of those questions, and then you could answer more questions, because students, of course, would be very attracted to set starting and end times, as we all would. But there are other issues involved that were raised, pedagogical issues that were raised by faculty when you did come. So if you could come back and answer those questions as a whole, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, Ophelia, you said this, you get positive feedback from the students, but I don't know if the students are going to be so positive when their teachers are 10 minutes late in the classroom, or when what ordinarily would end at a certain time, all of a sudden is dragging on and on and on. That's one of the issues that has been brought up to us. So, although I hear you when you say that students are in favor, they might not be in favor too long.
And if I may, so I know that February 2000, according to the senators, February 2013 was the last time the committee met.
Well, the spring term.
Right, so February 2013.
I think it was March.
12? According to one of the senators, the information was never brought to the Senate. And as such, I'm sure that you or Paul were never informed of the Senate's decision because there never was one. And then as to having a student-friendly and student-centered schedule, probably. I can also find students that will say that the current schedule is also friendly. So you're going to find both sides, students that like the current one, students that like the new one. But I think we go back to the same thing, that this has been implemented without shared governance. And if we truly are interested, we should form with students, there should be some sort of survey for the students and see what percentage of students like this one, what percentage of students like the old one, and especially let the students know that with the new one, what the schedule will look like for them. We need buy-in from the faculty, we need buy-in from the students, we need buy-in from management, classified staff, and only by going through the process can you find this out. Because what I'm seeing here is that We're basically saying, well, the problems that have been brought to us, we for the most part tweak them, and so we're gonna move forward. But again, it's something that has not been approved by the Senate. And we still, when I asked for documentation to say, to ask what are the benefits, I was given, I think there were like 8 community colleges that have done that. So to say we're gonna move in this direction based on the fact that some community colleges already have it, doesn't prove that this is gonna benefit the students. So one of the questions from the Senate is, what type of documentation exists or data exists to show that this new program or new schedule will be beneficial? I mean, I don't think there's any data to support that, correct?
I don't know what the meeting.
I think what he's referring to is other community colleges that are in a block schedule kind of a mode. What is their level of success or completion versus exactly?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Actually, it's a misnomer. We keep on saying block scheduling, but that's not what you're saying.
That's right.
What this was to look at, just evaluating.
It's not block scheduling.
The times,
The
the
times,
new
right.
times.
I mean, but looking at some of the other colleges, there's variations in how they refer to their schedule. These are scheduling templates.
Okay.
But I understand that they have changed in terms of start times, et cetera.
So the question really is those that are not bumping into each other, right? Because our problem is that our classes were bumping into each other and students could not put together rational schedules, and they either couldn't take classes, they had to wait around 3 and 4 hours or 5 hours before they can get the next available open spot. So the idea, and we heard the students talk about this, particularly Simon and others, talk about how this irrational situation caused some problems. So what we've attempted to do this fall is create a schedule with our Schedule 25 and other things where we could more effectively put a schedule together so students wouldn't run into that conflict. That's what we did. It's not block scheduling at all. It's just trying to accommodate, to try to facilitate things as people support students.
But with these problems, we still had student success, right? We've had student success with students bumping into these type of classes. So by changing and eliminating these bumps, what data do we have to support that the student success is going to go up?
It's not the student success piece of the level, it's completion. How long it's taking students to get their classes.
Well, that's a form. Okay, so that's a form. So what data do we have to support that goes up?
Well,
so we're just experimenting.
well,
We're doing.
actually, and I think, I don't see Chris over here, but, well, first of all, I would say
And not to say it doesn't
the
exist.
dead flat out honest answer to your question, we don't have any, okay? Don't have any. The real issue is, for us, is what in any given moment we feel would be best for forwarding the goals of student success, completion, and so on, based on the best knowledge that we have. And also trying to, come together on meeting what the board has set out as a goal for us. Now, what I'm hearing is this. Let me see, if I can, this is specific. I'm hearing that the administration has a proposal to try and regularize the starting and end time so that the courses don't overlap. Okay. I'm also hearing that in the administration's view, while we are bound and want to and must and should consult on this issue, right, that the issue is not as Beth Smith would say, an issue. We're not changing the curriculum, we're not changing the mode of instruction, we're not changing, or anything like that, anything to do with, something that's right up the middle of, faculty and campus. But we are bound to consult. But I'm hearing I was called misunderstanding, and I'm hearing Ophelia said, well, she followed what she thought was the process that was given to her. Okay. And I'm hearing, the Senate leadership say, yeah, but you know what, it needs to come back. Okay. So maybe we can, again, kind of come together on this and say we don't have any at least I don't personally have any objection to bringing it back. And hearing, and saying this is what we did, and here's why we're doing it, or why we propose doing it. What are the issues that you want to bring to our attention, in moving forward.
I think if I'm correct, this new change will take effect this summer. So it's not a proposal, it is an action. So there is no reason why, for example, in the fall, we have a template that has been in place for several years now. And we already know the type of outcome and type of problem that exists. So there's no reason why that cannot continue until it goes through the process. And ultimately, this way we can find out all the downfalls, all the benefits, and then make that recommendation to administration. There's no reason why that can't happen.
So without making a commitment, let me go back and confer and think, okay, all right. What you're saying, let's say, for instance, let's say hypothetically, there was no action. But Ophelia came today and said the administration feels strongly that we propose doing the schedule for whether it's fall or spring, or whenever we can reasonably implement it, that we should do it this way. Okay. And then we would do the next step of what, okay, what is the consultation process and the timeline to engineer a recommendation? Okay. And then do that. We should do that anyway, because if, without again making a commitment, if first of all, we should get in a better habit of having, no misunderstandings about the consultation. And if for some reason there is something that we haven't, developed or information that we need to know, we can always change a decision that's been made. So,
can I just give you some important dates that are going to really impact this dialogue? We go live with fall schedule. The registration begins on July 7th. We go live with our fall schedule June 16th.
We don't have much time. Well, there's no law against consulting fast. There's no,
This is the problem with that is that we don't even have a calendar yet. So we're talking about implementing something for July when there hasn't been a calendar yet. The calendar committee hasn't come up with the committee, hasn't presented to Senate, hasn't been presented to Dr. Rocha. So I think that's completely irrelevant because we don't have a calendar.
And most faculty don't have fall schedules yet. We have not been asked to establish a fall schedule for our classes.
And I just like.
All right. Okay, got that. And again, I'm just facilitating here. Okay, because the board, is the board, and we're designated the board, and we're all trying to get on the same page to do the right thing. So, there seems to be obviously a difference in what the process that leads to the decision here. Okay, so my number one concern, is that we clean that up. All right, and that we can come to a mutual agreement on step 1, step 2, step 3, recommendation, decision. Because as Beth says, we don't argue the outcome. You engineer the process. And I will grant you that for all sorts of reasons, that the process could be engineered better. So I'd ask us, first of all, to commit to that. And then, we'll look at the decisions that have already been made and try and work this out. One thing that I'd be interested in is, again, what if there are any, and I think you said you've addressed it, but if there are any situations that really, cry out for redress or something like that. But the main thing is, how are we going to get this, whether it's short or long, or 2 years or 2 months, how are we going to get this consultation done? What for you makes consultation? That's the essential question.
Well, I'd like to bring up just one thing. I understand the need to have certain start times and end times, but I don't think that the way the scheduling has been changed, and I won't call it block scheduling, it's not a simple matter of that. And I think that that's when the academic senate, because we have people obviously who sit there from all the different schools, we're looking at actually the schedule. It comes down to some classes will be meeting twice a week, some 3 times a week. I mean, in order to have them started in times, classes were going, the delivery of the content was going to be different. And that's what that says. That's why she said it made us the 10+1 issue. Scheduling was obviously a management decision, but when we're talking about the delivery of the content, and that's why we feel that if this information had been brought back to the academic senate, we would have had, well, I don't know. The fact that
Well, see, that's what we need to.
It
We always
does.
have Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses. We always have Tuesday, Thursday courses. So there's no change to the.
When we looked at the schedule, in some classes were meeting quite a bit longer, they were meeting longer, 4 hours long, to accommodate the starting and the end times. And you see, looking at it
In
from
the
a
summer,
faculty perspective, we might have noticed something like that and been talking about that. And fall too. And that's what we did not have
No, I
a chance to
understand.
discuss. And
Okay.
that's why
But-
we want to look
but
at
maybe-
pedagogical concerns behind this new rearrangement of things.
Okay, but these are the kinds of questions, kind of what I call content-based questions, that somehow, Matt, let me get Matt,
Yeah.
and then,
I would just like to say, I fully agree with what Pat is saying, is that if there have been changes that affect the curriculum or how the content is delivered, then those are the items for mutual agreement, because those are curriculum issues. From our perspective, there were time options and day options, a number of days per week that fit all of our existing offerings. So that there was no all of a sudden longer or shorter classes. There should have been an option for all of that. I think that the work for mutual agreement is to identify if that did happen. Can we identify it so that we either make the option available so that there is no change to the curricular aspect, or discuss, maybe you like the change and are open to a curricular change. But there was no intent to make any change that made a curricular impact on the course.
yeah, and that would be something that I would want to see, because I don't, we both teach English. It doesn't affect, it affects me whether I teach in a 50-minute hour or a 75-minute, it obviously affects me, but it's, we've taught that in those modes for years and years and years.
Right, and I don't think looking at the classes that are offered in the English division, we were affected. But there were other divisions that were affected by
Okay.
the
So we need to improve the consultation on this. Okay, and so, all right, so far together, not me, but together we have, let's see, a space allocation exhibit UDOT committee, and now we've got a class scheduling, we better get together real quick committee.
Can I give you another date? Because I'm
Okay.
making sure you laughed about not getting your schedule. May 12th, deans finish any final schedule changes and submit their final edits, so that's in 2 weeks.
Well, again, what I'd ask us to do, and not just break here, without, just, what I'd ask us to do is, I think we can make the best decisions we can on this, but we need to get back and do the consultation. And then again, more importantly, as I'm sure we can agree, is to get, for the spring and the following summer and fall, what is the step-by-step? Okay? Let me get Dan, then Melissa, and then I think we've got, Dan going.
Right, you asked for the step-by-step. The step-by-step is you bring a proposal for a change to us as the executive committee. we bring it back to the academic senate. The academic senate representatives check with their constituents, they both come back to the next meeting, they vote on it, yes, no. If it's no, we haven't reached mutual agreement, that means the status quo stays as is. That's the process.
That would be so, except in areas where, say, for example, Beth herself would say, this is an area for consultation, but not mutual agreement. And there is a difference.
I understand it, but there's.
If I say, I want you to teach something different in your English class, I can't do that without mutual agreement. But if I say, I want you to teach Tuesday, Thursday, rather than Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in many places, that's, I have to consult with you. I can't just say, I'm moving you over to Monday tonight. But that is not a mutual agreement issue.
Okay.
But that's what we need to come to agreement on, in my view. Because we keep, kind of going, well, is this 10+1 mutual agreement, or is this, consultation?
We would argue that these issues come with 10+1. The scheduling, we have heard from faculty say, look, my classes are all of a sudden 4 hours long. My students are going to be falling asleep at the end of that. It does affect the deliverance of the pedagogy.
And I don't understand why the faculty is saying that their class is now 4 hours long. The only way that would happen if the dean said you're going to be teaching 1 night a week versus 2 days a week where it's 2 hours a day. So as Matt said, we did not make any additions, deletions to.
And why does the faculty member just tell the dean no?
Are you kidding?
I'm not doing it. Okay, give me a different schedule. That's not the right
It
thing.
appears in the template, and there's an increase in hours, and it's just an error.
I promise, Melissa, and then we'll try and move on. Melissa?
Thank you so much. I wouldn't imagine a part-time faculty being just able to say no to the dean. They would get fired immediately, or just not rehired back. So that is rather, I'm sorry, Dr. Roger, but that's not something that we can do at the school, especially part-time. What I actually wanted to say is, so this is not about consultation, it's about agreement. And you can have consultation, as much consultation as you want, but in the end, you are violating, everybody here is violating Title V if you do not go back to the status quo. What I'm hearing is the administration has no data to support any compelling reasons to make changes, and therefore the status quo must be maintained, otherwise you're violating Title V. That's just the bottom line. So if you can consult, sure, what's happened here is the administration has gone way too far, and all of this should remain in the status quo and then move forward from there, but not just because you have overstepped your bounds. You've done fall, you've done summer, and now you're saying it's too late. There's plenty of time. The administration can easily tell the deans to hold off. And that's where, at least that's just my personal opinion. I think it's the opinion of a lot of academic senators. There's been no mutual agreement, and therefore status quo remains. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is, consult on this. Okay, you're going to come to the Senate on Monday, right? On the Monday Senate meeting, right? And then we're going to convene a class scheduling meeting to reduce two things. Okay, to work out whatever issues in the short term we can, even if we disagree. Okay. But more importantly, what I'd ask us all to see, not just me, is what is the step-by-step process, okay, that would lead to a decision about the class schedule for any given semester. We need, if you will, an administrative procedure for step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, but to be clear, I mean, we weren't expecting to come to mutual agreement today that on some of these issues we don't see things the same way in terms of what's a mutual agreement issue and what's a consultation issue. Everything needs to be consulted, but there's some issues that are clearly mutual agreement about we have no dispute, but there does seem to be some professional, valid disagreement about what issues are consultation issues. So,
I'm
anyway,
going to
Bob?
have to sit on associate to represent me on Monday.
Okay.
Dr. Brown, I have full day interviews.
Ted, to your point,
Okay.
we're in full day interview, so we're going to draft.
Oh,
He's deflecting all eyes on that. We're gonna ask that Matt comes, because he has probably a bit of knowledge of it, so he'll join in Monday at Senate, if that's okay.
But we all do agree that the curriculum is a mutual
Yes.
agreement, and that's one. Okay,
Yes.
fine, just that.
I,
we all
I
agree
can't,
about that.
you know, Pat, I mean, since I've been alive, but certainly since I've been in PCC, I've never, trespassed on,
If,
Okay, so
if
what-
and when there's a, I'll just call it a class schedule committee, in terms of, I do see it as having staff, management, faculty, students be part of this, right? Am I correct, Mr. Mills?
I'm sorry.
If we were to begin this process of having a committee formed to look at all timeline, consultation, recommendation, decision, that part of this committee will consist of individuals that are representatives of the Senate, of the faculty, of management, of staff and students.
So
That was the original.
So we are going to classify Senate, the academic Senate, the associated students.
Right.
And administration. But yeah.
But is there, one final point, and we have to move on. What's the rush to implement a new block schedule, a new template? What is the rush?
To use a term rush, we have, well, we're already in registration in the summer, so that's impossible to go back and fulfill the offer. I would suggest we're going to be in registration mode for the fall, June.
In July, but
The fall class schedule is July 2/16, so we're going to move it relatively quickly because the fall schedule is being formatted in the same way, so if we're going to do any changes, we're going to have to do it relatively quickly. To get an advantage to change the format, so when the schedule goes live, students actually see what it's going to be. That
But,
makes sense.
I understand that, but why not simply keep what we had last fall? Keep the system, keep the time, I just call it schedule, keep the schedule that we had last fall and implement this year. That way it'll allow this committee to discern all the problems, identify the benefits. I just don't see why it needs to be implemented this fall. If it hasn't been thoroughly vetted, why implement it? Why create problems that we don't need? We have enough problems. Let's not create any more. Let's keep what we have. Let's thoroughly vet it and implement it, because I mean, another red flag that's going up is like, if the calendar committee doesn't come up with a calendar, what calendar are you implementing?
Well, my response to answer was rush, because I saw Dr. Bell rushing to answer the question. I'm just kidding.
Roll back that
Is that, I think our difference is not on the rush, okay, but on the principle of consultation. It's our view, okay, that this is a decision within the purview of manager, not without consultation, but that this is not a 10+1 mutual agreement. That's our issue. So our apprehension, okay, would be that if we don't come to agreement on that, it'll be, we'll keep on arguing this issue and not be able to implement what I think is a pretty common kind of thing. Now, again, I'm not binding my own hand, or the board's for that matter, in making a decision. But I can tell you personally that if, why I think that the decision that Bob and the administration are making is the right one to make for the students. I do think that I would be, if your problem is what's the rush, I would be willing to look at that and hold up the rush if we weren't going to get held up with a whole consultation fight all over again, okay? If we could come to agreement that this is the step-by-step and this particular issue is not a mutual agreement issue but a consultation issue, then in return, I would be open to saying, well, I don't know, let's talk about this, and if you know, if there are faculty or other issues we need to concern, I would make the recommendation to the board to, okay, what's the rush? We agreed on this, we're gonna look at it, so that we would have the opportunity to work together, and then whether it be for the spring or, you know, fall summer, click it in. And so, so why don't we, you know, come back to this and see if we can agree on that, because if we can agree on that, this might be a classic compromise, okay? Where we agree that, you know, maybe write it down. These issues are consultation issues, but not mutual agreement issues. Because I would be interested in that, because if there are any issues that are, you know, and I guess the other part of that would be, see, I always thought, and this is, I just say this to all of us, okay? Because it's not, it's simply not, I've never seen, you know, a faculty member fired by a union, refused to teach a schedule. But it seems to me, pardon me?
Part-time is required. They say, here's the schedule. You want to do that? No, I don't want to do that.
Well,
Fine, because
not smart, but, you know, I mean, but be that as it may, you know, if there are, we should always come to mutual agreement with certainly individual colleagues and faculty members on their individual schedule and workload. I mean, that's what the dean should be doing. The principal should be applied fairly. And it'll be, I think, difficult under any circumstances to have, you know, a one-size-fits-all, because what, you know, might obtain in one school will be different. Okay, so we'll move on. I am agreeing for myself, without committing the board, that I'm willing to revisit the issue of what's the rush, as long as we're agreeing that we're going to make progress on deciding what's consultation, what's mutual agreement, and a step-by-step procedure that would lead to a recommendation. Okay?
Are we still talking about the fall implementation? Because
Yeah,
if we stop what's going on, I can assure you we will not be able to go live on June 16th to give students a live schedule. It would mean a lot of.
I think a decision has to be made very, very soon, and I think that without this sounding like a judgment, because CAPM didn't meet for as long as it didn't meet, for whatever the reasons were, we're now to where we are now, faced with a lot of decisions and discussions that if we had them a few months ago, we would be in a better place. But this is our reality. So I do think if there is any sense of delaying this decision to a larger thing, then maybe we do need to put on hold the fall. Now, we are going to have to deal with pushback from students as a result of that. The word gets out, the students are probably pretty happy with the decision that was made. But we can't dance with this decision for very long, right, Ophelia? We just can't, because the deans are working on, everybody's working with one frame of reference in mind, and now we're talking about changing that.
May 12th, my scheduling office will be receiving the final edits.
So they're working right this second. So they're working right this second.
Schools do final edits. So, yeah.
Well, I just want to say that Monday, that what the discussion that we will have is about the delivery of the curriculum, right? So we'll have the faculty will be there, they'll be representing their divisions, and what we will discuss is not just so much start times and end times, that's different. We'll be discussing about the delivery of some of this curriculum, right? And so that is definitely a mutual agreement issue. So let's have this discussion on Monday and just see where everything is, and we'll listen to what the faculty say, and then we'll kind of know where we are, what we're dealing with, right? Whether it's this consultation process or whether it really is a mutual agreement. So let's just see what happens Monday night, if I might recommend that before we decide.
Because the scheduling process from beginning to end is approximately 3 months. And
that this would have all been worked out.
That's right.
And we could have gone forward with this, and we would have mutually agreed, and we would have had a schedule that would have satisfied everybody's needs.
So I think next Tuesday we get together and make a decision and we go from there.
Well, the problem, we still have the problem, we don't have a calendar. I mean, we go back to the problem, we don't have a calendar that no one's agreed upon. So how can we, I mean, and right now, this is what I'm saying, this is what I'm hearing. May 12th is the final edit. And by June, sometime in June.
June's okay, but the final,
Registration begins in June?
well, May 12th, final edits.
Right.
June 16th, the schedule goes live. July 7th is the first day of registration.
Okay, and so what happens if we don't have a calendar? Will this still go happen without a calendar?
Well, I think we agreed on the start time, and we kind of
Yes, we did.
agreed on for the fall semester, right?
Bob, do you know?
But it was a recommendation.
It was a recommendation.
Yeah, that was a
So we don't have anything.
Well, I hope, knock on wood, that we will come to close, calendar committee will come to close on that this Thursday, because we're meeting on Thursday. And again, we're all dealing with the shortness of time and compression to keep things down, but one of the intended outcomes of this Thursday meeting was that we will come out of that meeting with a recommending calendar for council to review and develop for recommendations about the project. And so, if all the stars align, that meeting for the calendar committee will occur before Monday's academic senate, because that meeting is scheduled for Thursday this week, senate meeting Monday next week.
And if approved, then we can be presented.
Right, and then it will come, we can get the, presented to
What time do you meet?
June.
I know.
Okay, I'm saying, I'm looking at the 72 hours that we have to set the
We
agenda.
like that, we like that.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, I think we're making,
Okay.
making a lot of progress, it's happening, I like that.
So
I
with
think that,
the other three items you wanna, I mean, you know our position, so you wanna
yeah.
respond or?
I think I think we've got, right, we just picked up a lot of these in the happy situation, the block scheduling. So what do we got left, President Kyle?
Well, we got classroom assignments, NCNs, realignment. So these are the items that I stated earlier that ultimately what we want is stop the process, go back to where we were, go back to the way things were, and then begin the process of NCNs and let shared governments determine which way we're going to go or the way it's going to be implemented.
Okay, but I thought we just talked about the classroom assignments, right? So,
Well, let me see here.
yeah,
We
so,
talked about the
We
block
talked about
scheduling and
block
not
scheduling, so
classroom
we're talking
assignments.
That's room
pardon?
numbers.
The room assignments.
The room
Classroom
assignments.
Right.
That's another issue.
That's a separate
involved
issue.
with, it's a separate issue involved with scheduling. We're finding with 5 of the members who are used to having one classroom, one right after another, now all of a sudden have to run all the way across campus to get to their next classroom assignment.
Two issues together?
No, because the software
Yeah.
that has been implemented to assign our classrooms is based on numbers
Yeah.
that the administration has come up with. So, for example, in history, we have the shared governments come up with 35. With the NCNs of the administration, that number is up to 45. So based on that, we're now being assigned different classrooms. So it is tied one to the other. If we were to go back to the NCN numbers of shared governance, then this whole classroom assignment would, for the most part, go away. And so that's what
Oh, I
we're saying. We need to stop the process and let shared governments dictate once again what we're going to do, how we're going to do it.
Yeah, or
Do you want me to give just a quick briefing on the room process they're talking about? Which is that there was a component of 25 Live, which is the software that we use to schedule rooms, known as the Room Optimizer. And what it does is it looks at your room inventory and it makes assignments for classrooms, aligning certain characteristics that you program that include everything like how much whiteboard space is there, is it a specialized lab, how many seats does it have in it, and it makes assignments for courses. We we used that for the first time in building the summer schedule. And in the first iteration of it, it acted in a way that we weren't predicting, which is that.
Yeah, the system. They've never seen.
Right, which is that we had failed to realize that we needed to upload all of our faculty information into it so that it could say Manny Correa and know who that was, and say this person has a class that's 10 minutes apart, and so we're going to keep
So
him
why not keep him in the C building?
in the same room. So what happened
Yes.
for the first time we ran it, it had people moving inappropriately far distances.
Send it to the CEC.
So what we so when it was brought to our attention, we wiped out all of those room assignments. We reassessed, we uploaded all of the faculty information into the system. And so we've corrected it for summer so that people aren't having those, inappropriate traveling times.
Can I have a question? Have you asked for consultation from individual departments and schools about their classroom needs specifically rather than entering your own data into the
Yeah.
system? And wouldn't that be the kind of habitual lack of consultation perhaps that we've had up to this point? And couldn't we then, start on a new path by doing that?
Yeah. So what we did is we asked the deans to work with the faculty to identify any specific pedagogical reasons why a particular class or faculty member would need to be what's called pre-assigned to a room. And so if the deans made the recommendation, we would review those, and then a lot of pre-assignments were made based on the fact that there was some sort of reason that the dean and the faculty brought forward.
Like an example would be in the sciences, that the lecture and the lab have to be together, so that was a pre-assignment.
Matt, we're getting a lot of information in the math department saying they need wide whiteboards, and is that being addressed?
Yeah, and
And the
so,
wide desks.
so some examples, two examples are a lot of the math classes were assigned in the C building, and math needs a tremendous amount of whiteboard space. And so when that was brought to our attention, we contacted Bob Miller, we worked with Ruben, and so before the May 19th start date, there will be a tremendous amount of whiteboard installations that are happening in the classrooms that the math faculty have been assigned to accommodate their needs.
Also, it was brought up that in the current classrooms for the math classes, they have these very large desks to accommodate the textbooks and all that stuff. So they were concerned that in the C building with these little small desks, little small space, that it was going to be very hard to, dare I say, deliver the content, but I won't say that. But anyway, so they were concerned about that. It's just taking into consideration, again, that certain disciplines have certain needs for their classroom space.
So I can share with you that, Ophelia was out for a short amount of time, and so I was helping out with this process, and that's why I'm familiar with it, is that another example, that concern as applies to the math faculty was not brought to my attention during the time that I was working with this. It was brought from other departments. For example, the accounting department requested that they receive specific room assignment because their students have to have the books, the ledgers, the adding machine, and then of course that was approved and they're pre-assigned to those rooms.
Two important points. One, say for example, in my classroom I depend on certain maps. In my classroom I have created an environment by posters, to give this historical environment. Now I'm being shifted to two different classrooms, which means that the college will now have to pay for maps that already exist. That's a waste of money. Second, and the most important one, is that this optimizer is taking into account the NCNs created by the administration, not by shared governance. So that's the biggest wrong right there.
So let me address your first concern, which is speaking about posters and maps that are located in specific rooms, and that's something that we discussed in tremendous amount, actually, with the deans that had a lot to say on this. And the real point of the room optimizer is to maximize our efficiency, so there's money for other things at the college. And so one of the things we discussed the last time we used the room optimizer is now we're going to have all of these assignments that correctly aligns departments and courses with the size of room. So we're having an internal discussion now is once that alignment happens, can we then move to back to a system of having first call rooms? So that you teach a class that's 35, right? And up to now you've been assigned to a room of 20, right? So that's 15 students not being accessed to your class. Now that you're in a room of 35, could that room now get first assignment to history department courses?
Right, absolutely, I have no problem with
And
it,
so
as
that's
long
how-
as the numbers are incorrect.
So that's how we're discussing, that's how we are right now discussing how to address the issue of things like, the posters and the this and the that. It hasn't come to a final agreement, or we haven't finalized the conversation.
Right, but you have finalized the conversation, but the movement is already occurring. And again, if I would say the key part of the optimizer is the numbers. And I agree with that. There's no reason for me, if I have a classroom that I can fit 35 and under the classroom has 25, I agree. But those numbers have been created through shared governance. And so, right, what the campus is doing is now using numbers that have not gone through shared governance. So that's the whole, that's why this is here.
For 1 second, just to address that, my reading of that situation is this. Class size, there's two aspects of it. There is the curricular shared governance aspect, and there's the working condition negotiating aspect of it. In our last contract, there's some verbiage in there that says that these numbers will go through shared governance and then they will be negotiated. They went through shared governance and they are currently being, my assumption is that, and what I read in the contract negotiation updates, is that they're currently being negotiated. And so when that process finalizes, then there will potentially be some agreement, some contractual agreement. But until that happens, we are going on the former past practice closing numbers.
Well, yeah, and maybe actually, and here again is a clear mutual agreement issue, which I'm kind of agreeing with it, a mutual agreement. My understanding is this, and the board's position is pretty clear, that in the contract, just see if this is accurate, okay? Because this is my common sense kind of observer situation and the reason why the positions are, the way they are. The contract is stated for years and years and years of the so-called 1982 NCNs. And those 1982 NCNs are the ones that the college has had until, right, the curriculum committee some few years ago, okay, convened to look at NCNs and made recommendations for NCNs that were different than the 1982 NCNs, right? And in many cases lower than the 1982 NCNs. That recommendation of the curriculum committee, as the board understands it, and I certainly was never party to any mutual agreement to change the standing contractual NCNs from the so-called 1982 NCNs. So the board's position is that the existing NCNs, even though those changed and curriculum C&I committee recommended NCNs apparently were implemented for, yeah, okay. But on both sides there could be mistakes and errors. But the fact of the matter is there was no mutual agreement that I ever signed So according to our, rules, if you will, that the board's position is we go back to the status quo, since we haven't achieved a mutual agreement, of the standing 1982 NCNs. So what we may be...
We've had past practice up until we agreed on those NCNs, where the classrooms were pretty much workable, and we based those NCNs on what was working out. Going back to 1982 is placing an onerous burden on delivery of curriculum here. I don't know where those numbers came from, but they're just not workable now.
Now you're making the case that you often say that I'm making. That now you're making the case, the argument for the lower NCNs, but now I'm playing the role of Dan Haley and say, well, wait a second, you can't change the NCNs until we come to mutual agreement. Okay, I think Manny was next, and then Manny.
Since NCNs were reached through the CNI committee, which was chaired by Bob Miller and Matt Jordan,
At that
I think
time,
you would show great respect to them by honoring them and show goodwill on the part of the administration to use the NCNs reached through shared governance and CNI committee until they can be fully ratified through contract negotiations. I know that Scott Lay and Beth Miller talked about showing goodwill and reaching out, and you could respect two members of your administration here by who approved those numbers.
Yeah.
By using those NCNs to help us set these numbers for this classroom.
And I think, that kind of, and I agree with you, Manny, but I know that, and again, it's and now I'm back over with the contract negotiation, that kind of stroke of the pen decision has a real cost. And the board held up and said, now wait a second, okay? If we do that and we never signed on to this, that's going to increase costs dramatically and reduce the number of sections. I mean, that's, so I think so that's why we're trying to, negotiate with our friends in the union on the NCMs. But for the time being, the affecting this stuff is, the room assignments and so on. The board's position is that the administration's position is that we've been going on the 1982, NCNs, and we'll keep going until we can get this, renegotiated.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify one thing with the group, and I'll air this, and Ophelia can even clarify by clarifying, correct me, which is that there are the 1982 NCNs, and then as time went by, there were lots of new courses added to the curriculum that didn't have a defined NCN in 1982. There were also specific departments and divisions that through the deans reached informal agreements with the current vice president of instruction that were slightly different from 1982. And so the numbers evolved over time. And I refer to those as the past practice numbers we used historically, 2009, 10, 11. What we have in effect right now are the past practice numbers. A lot of, some of them were defined in 1982, a lot of them were courses that didn't exist, and some were NCNs that evolved.
English 400, we reached an agreement with Dr. Jacobs, we're to 25, and it's at 30 again. That's not a past practice.
Is the room optimizer using best practice numbers or 1982 numbers?
We can't use the 1982 numbers because there's no consistency. If you look at the document that's called 1982-83, it's by classroom. So one history, 7A could be in 4 different classrooms and have 4 different NCNs. I don't know the history behind that, but I don't think we can really rely on 82-83 information because it's not consistent within each course.
And the contract requires it.
There's a variation.
Right.
Because I couldn't
Exactly.
figure out why History 7A, this CRN had 35, this had 40, this had 28, and it all reflected by the classroom that it was assigned to.
Yeah, so I think the short answer to the question is, we're using the past practice that was in effect prior to the decision that Dr. Bell and I made to implement the CNI recommendations for that fall semester. We did as a show of good faith, naively assuming that that would help the district and the union come to quicker decisions. It didn't, and believe me, I've relived that nightmare experience over and over again ever since I helped make that decision. But in any event, it's definitely past practice, because as Ophelia is saying, and as everybody's saying, you can't, 1982 was, 25 years ago or whatever the math is, 30 years ago, whatever it is, and it just doesn't work.
So the union was opposed to this, these numbers?
I don't think, they never even finished discussing it, they never got to the table, they never got to the
Although,
table.
well, then again,
You thought they were going to get to the table, too, but they didn't. It's the collective thing.
here's a suggestion, and we don't have to act on this right now. I don't think the NCNs are like a die on the hill issue for us. What I suggest that we do is leaving apart what's going on with the union negotiation and so on, because I can tell you the board's position was developed because of all these questions that we've discussed. So would it not be possible to, on the shared governance, right, to convene, if you will, a new NCN, CNI shared governance process? And here's what I'd understand. Because I trust the process and I trust faculty. If for example, Manny was just saying, and common English teacher, Manny was just saying, well, they were 25 and now they're 30. Okay. Well, that might be a problem, especially if the CNI committee got together and instead of looking at it in terms of like 1982 or the room size or historically my dean gave me this or so on and so forth, that the CNI committee went out there and did the work, the hard work, took the time with it of recommending, forget classrooms and everything, recommending norms for, say, the various modes and disciplines, okay? Because if we find out that, for example, that 30 is not the norm for an English class, I personally would not support that, but if we found that, 35 or 40, whatever it is for the various things, and study that and come to a, the CNI makes a recommendation that for these modes of instruction, the recommended, we call it NCN, but the enrollment cap limit would be X, or so on and so forth. And then having a provisos in there that, unless of course, the room doesn't permit it, or and so on and so forth, but that we focus on the norms that would get us to just a reasonable kind of overall average as a goal, rather than, I think we have been kind of wrangling over the law of it, so if we see, for example, that our class sizes are too high in some areas, and we obviously need to address that. So perhaps we can get a better NCN process, because this is not, believe me, this is not the hill that I know, speaking for the board or for myself and the administration, this is not the hill that we want to die on. Okay, this is not, it's not that big of a deal, and really, we ought to be able to get this cleaned up.
Can I just say, and Matt, you can confirm this, the CNI committee spent a year doing just that. We were chairman of it. Each division was asked to put forward a case either to raise, to lower, or to maintain their NCNs. And I know in the English division, the two faculty who did this, they spent months and months collecting data and research. And it was so convincing that that's why the committee then voted to lower class size. So I think that's actually already been done. They've seen like
Okay.
for the whole year, they had 4 extra meetings. I mean, you did an awful lot of work. So
Yeah.
that's already been done. You don't want to reduplicate that effort. I don't
Okay.
think.
Pat's right, and I will add one thing, is that, kind of frustrating for me, having gone through that experience. Like 4 months after we finished it, the statewide academic senate puts out a white paper on best practices in setting course limits. And so I really recommend this paper to people because it does a very excellent job of identifying all of the variety of issues that class size affects, the important pedagogical issues, the important fiscal issues for the college. And one of the things upon reflecting on what's happened here on our campus is that the potential kind of conflict or misunderstanding on these items that are both shared governance, pedagogical, and then also working condition. And for people to have a clear understanding that it's both of those items and what is the process for handling this issue that is both shared governance and working condition. Because I think a lot of people had the misunderstanding that it was solely a shared governance item, when it was really both.
So we only have, I see about 4 minutes left, unless you guys really want to stay longer. Which I'm willing to do. One thing, colleagues and President Cairo, do we want to schedule other additional CAPM meetings upcoming or not? Or what do you want?
I think it'd be in the best interest of everyone to do so. So let us get together and propose a meeting and then.
Why don't you propose a schedule?
Okay.
And, unless we're, some ridiculous thing, we'll just, go with that. Because I think the more we meet, the better.
And that will continue.
Especially on these issues.
There are some Mondays that I can't be here beyond like 3:45.
Those are the ones who are going to be here.
I know. I'm just putting it on the record.
That's right.
It's fine.
But yeah, just get those to us so we can get them on a calendar because I do think we're maybe not getting everything tied down, but we're nervous.
And then we can bring up some of the other issues that we wanted to discuss.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. We have to. And as soon as you want to come back to them, we're ready to go. We'll clear our schedule.
Just a suggestion from the floor, for next year, it would be wonderful if we could have weekly CAPM meetings at the same time and place, just so we have just the regular interaction, that we constantly have a time where we can check in, because things happen so quickly, there's stuff going on constantly, that if we have that weekly time, then we can make sure that we're discussing and things aren't getting, not shared.
I have a comment from the floor as well. That sounds, if I were in their position, I would want that too as an administrator, because you're 100%, that's your job all the time. But these fine faculty who are serving as senators also teach, and I would be careful to make sure you don't overschedule yourselves if and when and how often you do meet, but just to have a little sensitivity to that as a professor on this campus.
No, I also think the reassigned time that you guys receive would hopefully, there would be room for there to get together and meet.
The other thing I'd suggest, just a suggestion, following up on, you close your schedule, and I'm sure that'll be okay with us. Maybe sometime this summer, with the new officers, your new officers coming in, we can set a CAPM retreat day, and I'll buy the food and so on, and maybe go off to the Athenaeum, and maybe if you want, that doesn't have to be Beth and so on, but bring in somebody that we respect and so on, can help us to talk about you know, come to better understandings about, you know, mutual agreement, consultation, you know, models, because maybe we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Is there anything, and again, it's not my meeting, but is there anything, President Cairo, that you want to cover before we break camp?
Just one is, this is presented to us by our current adjunct senator, and we're facing two issues. One is that the issue of the pay of the senator, in which he's requesting to increase the pay to go to $50 an hour per meeting. And then the second issue is that there is currently we might end up, we're going to be increasing the number of adjunct representatives, one per school. So, so what we're going to request, what we're going to request today was to have the budget for the adjunct senators to be increased. And roughly we're talking about 7,000?
About 6,000 to 7,000, yeah. We'd ask that because we're trying to encourage representation from adjunct faculty in the decision-making process, we wonder if we can include this in the academic senate budget.
So something to be discussed.
No, I'm glad you raised it. Let me just, you know, shoot from the hip and say I would agree to that, you know, tentatively. I'd ask Bob and the assistant superintendents to see how this can be fitted in the budget, because I think the more, especially on the adjunct side, the more participation and conversation, the better. The only minor proviso is just, let me check with the negotiators to see whether that has to be memoed out with, since it's compensation. I don't think I can do stroke of pen, but I'm for it. So let me just tentatively agree to that, providing that, or we can memo that out with the union. Okay? Good, we covered it. We better stop there before we keep talking. And thank you very, very much, Marina. I hope you got all that. I know Victor did. So we'll see you when we see you.